Hello and welcome to Fire in the Belly. Today we have myself, Mighty Pete, and we're joined by Arnon Barnes. Good afternoon, Arnon.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Always listening. It's a pleasure. I've been looking forward to this, so it's great to have you on. So, Arnon, tell us, who are you? What are you doing? Where are you from?
Originally born in a country called South Africa, in a tiny city called Johannesburg. I'm not sure if any of the listeners know it, but I'm sure they have. Grew up in South Africa, was born there, middle class family. We'll probably dive into it a little bit more as we progress, but grew up in a middle class family. Parents got divorced at a young age, relocated, immigrated from South Africa, moved to Israel as a young teenager. Not speaking the language, not knowing much about the country. And that's where I turned from boy to man. My father had stayed in South Africa and pretty much forgot about us, abandoned us in a foreign country, and became the man of the house, dropped out of school, went to work as a 16-year-old to help mum put food on the table, make sure we have a roof over our heads, and clothes on the backs of my younger sister and baby brother. Went to the army at the age of 19, spent a good 3 years in the military, left broke, entered the big, beautiful world with nothing than hope, imagination, creativity, and determination. And that's where I started my journey in the business world, where I actually established and built up my first multi-million pound company, sold it by the age of 27, positioned myself by the age of 28 into real estate, property, and became financially free from the age of 28. The last 10 years or so, I've been passionate about teaching and training entrepreneurs, business owners, business leaders, how to scale, grow, and build successful businesses. Personally, I've trained and coached over 100, maybe 120,000 people in around 65 different countries in that last 8, 9, 10-year period. And I'm really excited about doing that and sharing my wisdom. As you can see, there's a lot of wisdom on this mountain, but also help people avoid the pains, because you can see there clearly was a lot of pain on the way as well. So that's me in a nutshell. Yeah.
That's awesome. It sounds almost like the interview done. Thanks very much. That's tell me this. You mentioned there being passionate about training people. Can I ask why?
When I sold my first company and did well, I looked at that bank account, and looking at the money that was in that account was something that I was excited about and wanted to achieve for years, for decades. Growing up as a kid, there were moments where food was a luxury. We used to receive charity in the form of food. And so subconsciously, I made a decision that living like this was not an option, was not a choice. And that drove me to achieve success. When I sold my first company and I had mentally and logically achieved that milestone of success, I looked at that bank account and I got excited about those figures for about 23 seconds. And then I said, A, is that what it's all about? And B, is that it? And so I started to seek and ask different questions once I had made some money. And I realized that there were so many people that were suffering and struggling, but we didn't really know about it. Everyone on the outside looks great, but when you look, behind the scenes and you look inside and you see what's going on behind closed doors and what's happening in their fridge, in their refrigerator, you realize that a lot of people are struggling. And having dropped out of school, having left school, I realized that was actually one of my biggest blessings, because the school system has created more broke people than any other system in the world. It's also created the most amount of debt than any other system in the world. And so I realized that if I had achieved a certain level of financial success and business success and life success, I realized that what greater gift can I give to others than to teach and share the things that I learned on my journey. whether it was the books that I read, the trainings or seminars that I attended, you know, the programs that I invested in. And so it pushed me into a world of, if I can do it, anyone can do it. Let's help more people do it. And I fell in love with training and coaching and teaching. And I've been doing it for, you know, about a decade now. And it's definitely one of my finest and brightest things that I do. It lights me up like a Christmas tree. And so I love training. I love seeing people, you know, I always say when people come to an event with me, and my small events are 2 days long, my bigger events, you know, are from morning till night, more than 3 days. And I always say there's nothing more powerful for a teacher, at least for myself, to see someone walk through the doors of the event, right? They come into the hall, they come into the event room, and you look at them and you can see that they are alive. And then 2-3 days later, they leave awake. And there's a totally different, there's a big difference between being alive and being awake. Most people are alive but are asleep. And so I love to see that twinkle in people's eye when they are awake. Yeah. So I just love training. It's just a great opportunity for me to share my gifts, my talents, and help other people. Another belief I have is I believe wholeheartedly, considering where I've come from and you know, not having that rich mommy or rich daddy to give me the check. Arnon, here's the $1 million. Here's the £1 million. Go make it happen. I don't know about you, but I'm still waiting for that freaking check. I never got the check. And so for me, to be able to share my story and show people that despite where I've come from and the challenges I've faced, you know, growing up without a father, parents being divorced, my mom juggling 2-3 jobs sometimes, not being able to pay the rent, you know, and other obstacles that I'm sure a lot of the listeners could relate to or can see in their past, have surfaced for them as well. You know, again, coming from that energy of if I can do it, anyone can do it. But I also believe that if you have a certain level of success, it is your obligation to send the elevator back down. And that's why I always say to people, get as strong, as successful, as influential, as rich as possible. Because when you're in a place of power, that's when you can help more people to the top of the mountain. A lot of people are broke and struggling and they're trying to push other people up, but you can't give what you don't have. And so, yeah, when I achieved my first level of financial freedom, my first level of what I call financial success, I fell in love with the concept of teaching and training. And so I've been passionate about it and I continue to be passionate about it. Yeah.
So what does fire in the belly mean to you?
The first thing I hear when you say, what does fire in the belly mean to me? I think of the ultimate underdog, Rocky Balboa, Eye of the Tiger. And when I hear fire in the belly, a synonym that comes up for me is hunger. Hunger. One of my teachers and someone who I've had the privilege to share the stage with and teach alongside with is a gentleman called Les Brown. And Les Brown is a great teacher, phenomenal teacher. And I remember, you know, sharing the stage with him multiple times, and I'm obviously an avid student of his and picked up a lot of golden nuggets. And he always says, you've got to be hungry. And when you say fire in the belly, I hear hunger. People need to get hungry. And I have an image of Rocky Balboa in my mind, this total underdog who didn't have anything else other than pure hunger. And so that's what comes up for me when you say fire in the belly, hunger.
Do you have it?
What do you think?
I'm not going to make any assumptions, but
yes, I'm hungry. I'm hungry. And I must say it's a really good question, because I find myself bouncing in and out of hunger.
Mm.
I'm not the kind of person who's great at running marathons. I'm great at running sprints. And let me put that into context. A lot of people start a business, start a venture, start an idea, or they want to run a company or own a company or buy a company, and they go into the race and they treat it as a sprint when it's actually a marathon. Or they go into a marathon when they have only the stamina for a sprint. I am more a sprinter than I am a marathon runner. In other words, I'm a great starter. I'm not the best finisher. And because I know this, because I know I'm a very good starter, what I tend to do when I build my businesses, I surround myself with finishers. And I find that that strengthens my hunger.
Mm.
So do I have hunger? Absolutely. Having said that, I also tend to say a lot more no than I say yes. And I find that it really helps me stay focused and stay on my path and stay in my truth. A lot of entrepreneurs, they approach me for, coaching and training, and they want to, grow their ideas or their businesses. And you discover they've got 10 companies and each one is doing 100K each. And I'm like, if you were just to focus on one or two of them, we could drive it to 10 million. And so I find myself jumping in and out of being hungry. And sometimes I need to get hungry. I need to kickstart my engine as well. My engine needs fine tuning and it needs to get fuel and oil added to it. But yeah, I'm definitely hungry. And, I honestly believe with hand on my heart, for me personally, being at the age that I'm at and where I'm at in my life, the best is still in front of me, not behind me.
Mm.
Yeah.
In general, are you fear-based then? Or are you pleasure-based? Where do you lie?
That's a really good question. I think it's a combination of both. One of the drivers that drove me to success, financial success at a relatively young age, I sold my first, like I said, multi-million pound company at the age of 27, repositioned myself, took those profits, invested into real estate by the age of 28, financially free. That was solely driven by fear. That was driven by fear and pain. Because if you think about it, it's not normal that a 27-year-old achieves financial freedom at that young age. It's not, I'm not saying it's unheard of, but it's not necessarily the norm. And the driver for that success, that level of success, was fear and pain. The fear of not having food, the fear of having landlords knock on your door and say, your mum hasn't paid the rent, pay up. Friday night dinner, receiving a package at the door with, bread, rice, beans, eggs. There was a lot of fear that drove me, a lot of pain that drove me in my younger years, for sure. Now I'm definitely, I play with that energy differently, and I get excited about, what are my dreams? What is on my bucket list? What do I want to achieve? I know you mentioned one of the things that you've been nominated for is to do a TEDx talk, and I know you're really excited about it. It was on your bucket list, and I obviously, did my research. And so, by the way, big congratulations for that. Very, very exciting for you. And for me, I've learned to balance that element of having that fear, because fear is a great driver. Psychologically, people will run away faster from a burning building than they will run towards their dreams. It's narratively weird, but fear is a great driver. And so I play with that energy of fear, but I definitely get excited about pleasure, doing pleasurable activities and things. And that's also a strong driver as well. So I think it's kind of a balance. Yeah.
Do you think pleasure is more sustainable?
It's like giving someone a lick of the ice cream just so they can taste it, for them to strive to have the whole cone. Is it more sustainable? I think it's definitely more enjoyable. I don't know if it's sustainable, but it's definitely more enjoyable. A lot of people, when they achieve a certain level of success, they have a fear in them of, I don't want to lose this. I don't want to lose this. And I think it's an apologetic and an unnecessary energy. So is it more sustainable? I'm not sure. I probably would say no. I think fear is a more sustainable energy. Having that constant worry, oh, I'm going to lose it, I'm going to lose it, I'm going to lose it. But it's certainly not a more enjoyable energy. and I tend to lean more to enjoying. They say, life is short. Have you heard that? Life is short. I always say bullshit. It's the longest thing you're ever going to do. It ain't short. And so you got to enjoy it. You got to enjoy the journey. In 2016, I took a group of entrepreneurs and business owners, business leaders, and we went down to Africa. We flew down to Tanzania. And this small group of entrepreneurs and clients, people that I coach and work with, we went to climb Kilimanjaro. And I remember climbing Kili. And on that journey, that 7-day climb, 7-day climb, whatever it was, I remember saying to myself, this is one of the most miserable journeys in my life. It was boring as heck. Like when people say to me, let's go climb Kilimanjaro, I'm like, you're on your own, because it was so boring. Because the only thing you focused on is the target, right? Getting to the top. But there was no enjoyment, or very little enjoyment on the journey. It's cold, it's miserable, you're walking slowly, you've got the altitude on top of you, it's just not an enjoyable journey. And from that experience, I actually developed something else called the Safari Leadership Experience, where I take every year a group of select entrepreneurs down to Africa, and we do for about 8, 9, 10 days, we do a safari. But these are not normal safaris, these are walking safaris. So whilst everybody's on jeeps looking for animals, we're doing it on foot. We stay in camps that are open camps, and the animals come into our camps. It's an amazing experience. But that was transformed, that experience was created by transforming the idea of let's climb Kilimanjaro and it's all about the goal. And it changed into let's enjoy the journey as well. And so for me, I just, when you talk about, is it sustainable? I think fear and pain is more sustainable, greater than pleasure. But I definitely am after the pleasure. I just want to enjoy this journey called life. And funnily enough, I always say to my students, when I die, when it's my time to go, this is how I want to go out. Woo-hoo! What a freaking ride. Most people don't die like that. Most people die with regret. Most people die with all the what could have been, what should have been, and what I could have done. And I don't want that to be me.
Talk to me about mini Arnon. What sort of a young fellow were you?
Talk about money?
Mini, small,
yeah,
junior.
Myself as a kid?
No.
Okay. Yeah, good question. What do you want to know?
What were we looking at? What sort of a fellow would we have met?
Well, if I go back to my younger age, my younger years, definitely a rebel. Okay. Didn't like sitting still. Didn't like being submissive to teachers, which is ironic because today I have a son. I'm blessed with a beautiful boy. And I noticed that teachers could be either the greatest blessing to a child in their life, or they can be the biggest bullies. So it's either one or the other, in my opinion. But yeah, just curious, I guess. Curious kid.
Were you running into school or running out of school? What was your?
Definitely running onto the sports field. So I didn't ever see myself as an academic, but I did consider myself as an athlete. So I was, I played cricket, I played badminton, I played tennis, I played football, I swam, played chess. So I saw myself more as more of outside of the school classroom, but within the school area, sports. I love sports. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm very curious by your language. There's a lot of visual talk there. You're seeing, you're looking, you're all that, and then your original talk. You talked about imagination and creativity. So it suggests that, you are very creative by nature. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And do you tend to? I suppose I'm curious the way you learn then, and how you've learned through school. I mean, do you learn now the way you used to, or has it
Yeah,
changed?
so growing up as a kid, I mean, what was the old age school system, right? Sit in class, be quiet, look at the blackboard, listen to your teacher, don't speak to your neighbor, which I always got in trouble with. I was always the kids, speaking. I remember I had a teacher growing up at school. I'll never forget, Mr. McCormick, and he was a great teacher, and he loved me. I know he loved me, he cared for me, but he also didn't take my shit. And if he was in the back room and he would hear a loud in class, if he would hear a loud noise, he would just shout bonds, and all of a sudden everyone would be quiet because he knew that I would be the center of making trouble. But no, I think I mean, you also really good question there about the mini me. I haven't visited that idea for a long time, so it's a very interesting question. Um, yeah, I was always on the sport field. Yeah.
What were the school reports saying?
School reports. I probably need to get off the sports field a little bit more and pay more attention in class. I think the only class that I actually excelled in or did relatively well in was mathematics.
Hmm.
I actually was a pretty strong student in maths. Everything else was boring, and it makes sense. I mean, I look at it today, the way I learned back then. You asked a great question. I would learn from, watching the teacher explain stuff. Today, I'm a visual person. And also the way I teach in a way called accelerated learning, which basically is engaging the nervous system, the left hemisphere, right hemisphere, brain, but also with our nervous system, by teaching through an experience, by engaging the nervous system, the body. And back then it was just so flat and so vanilla. And, the crazy thing is, if you look at the schooling system today, a 12-year-old kid today with access to one of these, a smartphone, can pretty much answer any question that school has to ask.
Hmm.
And so I believe it's a dying animal. It's an old age system that is not designed to support our kids in the new age and the new world that we're moving into and living in. So I'm definitely a visual learner. But yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is that, have you any indication in terms of your son whether he's following a similar path or?
My son lives in his own fantasy world. He's 7 years old. He's only now starting to learn how to read and write, and it's a very exciting period for him. So it's a little bit early to identify and to understand. Just because these are memories for myself of over 30 years ago. But he's not going to be an academic, in my opinion. He's going to be a creator and a creative leader, definitely a leader. I
Sounds familiar.
actually it does, and it's actually scary because when I watch him, how he plays and how he orchestrates things when he's with his group of friends and his little camaraderie, it's really nice to see. And his mother did something really smart. She bought him a dog, and the dog provokes leadership, because if you don't lead the dog will lead you. And I can see how intelligent she has been in introducing a dog into his life, and how he's taken ownership of that and actually stands in his power to lead this dog. And it's not a small dog, I'll tell you that. But yeah, definitely got leadership skills. I always say children don't lack skills, they just lack teachers. And so if you bring enough teachers into their world, they're like sponges. They just want to soak everything up. They're open to receive. And parents tend to hold back and oh, we don't, my son is going on to learn 3 languages. He's 7 years old. That's pretty cool. So they're like sponges. So you just got to guide them a little bit. So I can definitely see a little bit of myself in him. But then again, we as parents, our job is to just create a platform for him to do the best he can do and share his gifts and his talents with the world. That's what we want, whatever they are. Yeah.
I was going to say, how does that compare then to your own childhood?
For me, looking back and looking at my experiences, not only as a child, but with my position as a trainer, as a speaker, as a thought leader, I realized that, first of all, my parents, our parents, everyone's parents, surprisingly, they're all trying to do the best they can with their upbringing, with their pains, with their conditioning, with their hurts, with their abandonment issues, with their sufferings, with their, everyone's coming with their baggage. And so what's happening, we see this again and again, is that parents are just replicating and passing down from one generation to another generation, their hurts, their pains that they've picked up from their parents. And so it's so important to be able to break that cycle and say it ends here. And like I said, I grew up at a relatively young age without my father. My father, my parents got divorced when I was about 11, 12 years old. And pretty much from the age of 14, my father was non-existent. And so looking at those experiences from the past, I'm living in a space where I'll never let that happen to my son. And so that ends here. My father's legacy ends here. And I will rewrite. I will start a new chain. And I think it's really important as well. So parents are doing the best they can. But and one of the interesting things in psychology, we see that you're either going to be one of two things. Either you're going to be exactly the same, or you're going to be exactly the opposite. And the determining factor is actually how pissed off you were. So there's a moment when kids go through, subconsciously, they don't even realize this, where something happens at home, right? Daddy or mommy does something, and we get so hurt, so sad, and we go into our bedroom and we start yelling in the pillow and start screaming, I hate you. I will never be like that. And boom, the programming starts. And then again, depending how pissed off we either are exactly the same or completely the opposite, depending on those experiences that we had. So for me, just those experiences that I had with my father and growing up as a kid, I will not allow my son to experience the same. I mean, I always say we'll fuck him up in our own special way, right? Because we all have our own, there is no playbook to getting it right, but hopefully we can do it a little bit differently. And love. The secret is love. Love and confidence. If you can give them love and build their confidence, that's already winning. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Thank you for sharing that. It's a lot. What were you going to be when you grew up? Did you know?
It's funny you asked that question. I grew up like any other kid. My superheroes were He-Man, Spider-Man, Superman. And growing up as a kid, I looked up to my father, especially until I was about 10, maybe 11 years old. And my father was an entrepreneur. He was an investor. He used to invest in property and in real estate. And I remember stories of, and I have some visuals as a young kid of my mom taking us to see one of daddy's new houses that he just bought. And I remember being a kid, 8, 9, 10 years old, whatever it was, and driving with my mom to this property. Like I said, I grew up in Johannesburg in South Africa, and we would drive up to these houses and we'd go in, and there would be a group of builders there, building, and my mom would walk in and she would literally yell at my father, you bought another dump? Look what you bought, this piece of shit. What are we going to do with this house? And my father would always say, wait, give me 2, 3, 4 months, wait. And I remember I'm a kid, I'm witnessing this interaction between my mom and dad. And 2, 3 months later, I remember going back to the same house with my mom, and my mom would be blown away. I would be blown away because my father had created something out of nothing. And so for many years at a young age, my father was kind of my superhero. He was also my best friend. And I think that's why when he left, it was really difficult for me to swallow. And it changed my path dramatically. But I definitely looked up to my father. You know, I remember wanting to be like him, to build houses, to create, to be an entrepreneur. And so that kind of was set in my DNA. And then after dropping out of school at the age of 16, I started to work, you know, just these random jobs, delivering sandwiches, you know, cleaning floors. I was, you know, I remember growing up, and this was already when I moved to Israel. I remember going into restaurants at, you know, 11, 12 o'clock at night, and there was nobody there. It was just pitch dark. And I would have a mop and, you know, a bucket of water, and my role was to wipe the entire floor. And I was remember like doing janitor work at a very young age. But inside of me, because of what I'd witnessed as a child, watching my father and not having diplomas and degrees and finished, you know, university and school, etc., the only answer was entrepreneurship. The only answer was to start a business, build a business. Today I buy businesses, but that was the only option, because I always knew that I was destined for greatness. I don't believe, and I've never believed, and you and an army of people cannot convince me that we been blessed with 60, 70, 80, 90, maybe 100 years on this beautiful planet, and that we're destined to do the 9 to 5, 9 to 5, 9 to 5 until we're 65. I just can't swallow that pill. It's just too much. Now, do we need to work? Do we need to be smart? Do we need to put in time, energy, resources, hard labor? Absolutely. But there's one thing I'm just so grateful for, and that's being an entrepreneur. But growing up as a kid, it was watching my father who started to shape my world. That was definitely one of my heroes. Funnily enough, there is another one, which which I don't really talk too much about. Did you ever see the movie Pretty Woman?
Yeah.
Right. So in that movie, Edward, who was played by Richard Gere, I saw that movie as a young kid, and I was like, I want to be doing that. He has this powerful businessman, you know, everyone's giving him respect, and, you know, he's a good guy, which unfolds as the movie moves on. And I think that was a moment where I started to get programmed. That was a programming moment. Every single one of us, every person listening to this podcast, every single person in the world has a moment or a few moments where something happens and it is ingrained into our memory and it's driven into our nervous system, and we start to get excited about whatever that idea was that that got imprinted. It's an imprinting moment. And watching Pretty Woman, watching that businessman, was an imprinting moment for me. So, you know, my father was a role model, but also watching Richard Gere in the role of Edward, there was a moment that shaped my life as well, which is ironic because today I buy companies, I am into acquisitions, and that's pretty much what he was doing. So yeah, it's funny how life catches up with you. Yeah.
You mentioned respect there. I'm kind of thinking, you know, is there an element of control there? Is it both?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the worst things an entrepreneur can do is give away control. And I'm talking about control in love or control in relationships or control with your kids. You know, business is about control. You know, I want to have control. Um, I want I want to control my money. I want to control my business. I want to control my income. I want to control my expenditures. I want to control my investments. Absolutely. And I think to think not is naive. Yeah, definitely. Control so important for me as
Hmm.
well. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just looking back then, I mean, who do you take after, your mother, your father, or where do you sit?
I would say neither. I think I would say neither. Of course, I've got elements of both of them, right? But I'm really focused and conscious of forging my own path. And I think the fact that growing up as a kid, I was always daddy's boy. I was a daddy's boy. I wasn't a mommy's boy. I was always a daddy's boy. And when my father and my mom separated around the age of 12, and then we relocated from South Africa to Israel at the age of 14, and my father not being on that journey with us gave me room to create my own path, create my own personality, create my own characteristics. If I were to look at both parents of mine, by the way, my mom is a complete hero of mine. For many years, I looked at my mom and I would think to myself, I don't want to live like that. You know, my mom was struggling, and, you know, but as I grew wiser and I have more consciousness and I started to realize and understand the situation better, I realized what a great hero my mom was. You know, in a foreign country, not speaking the language, you know, not having support or help or anybody handing her checks, working 2-3 jobs, working from morning till night, feeding 3 children the best she could. It's just a superhero. So if I look at both my parents, I got gifts from both of them. On one hand, my mom's, you know, will to continue moving, to hold the family together, to stick together, to, you know, never give up, never say die. That was an incredible attribute. And it's funny because I always say to people, you know, I kickbox, I play a lot of sport, I'm in a football team, and I always say, look, I might not be the strongest, I might not be the smartest, but one thing, I'll never give up, and that's why I win. And I think I got that attribute from my mom. My mom never quit. She never gave up. She was in a fight. And obviously growing up, bringing up 3 children, you can't throw in the towel. There is no towel, right? So my mom was definitely a hero. And I think that never giving up attitude came from her. And then if I look at my late father, because, you know, even though I didn't really see my father from the age of 14, our conditioning process starts from the age of 1, 2, 3 years old until we're 9, sometimes even 12. And so my father played a major role in that conditioning process of mine. And I think what I took from my father is, you know, the entrepreneurial side of things. You know, always find a way. Always find a way. Where there's a crack, you can slip through it. You know, it's the classic of, you know, the plant who's on a paved road but manages to crack through and eventually blossom into a tree. And so definitely 2 characteristics that I took from my parents. Yeah.
It's interesting because even the characteristics you describe, you know, your father in terms of visual creative, you know, wait till you see and all the rest, which you sort of come across with, but then your mother's language you change in terms of, you know, it's more kinesthetic, more feeling, more that side. I don't know whether that makes any sense.
Sorry, you broke up there for a sec.
So I was commenting there in terms of, or sort of curious about the change in language you use for your mother and your father, in terms of your father more on the visual side and wait till you see the, you know, the opportunities and things like that, and then with your mother it's different and it comes across as kinesthetic language. I was just curious about that sort of mix up.
Yeah. Is there a question?
I was just curious to know whether that made any sense, whether that's
Yeah, of course. I mean, the reality is, I mean, obviously I have a great relationship with my mum today, and you know, we speak frequently and we share and we talk, and I'm very blessed to have a beautiful woman in my life. And you know, she's very special to me and obviously played a major role in shaping and molding me who I am today. But she was definitely different from my father, I'll tell you that. Chalk and cheese, salt and pepper, day and night. And I guess in some ways that's why they, you know, they were together for a period of time. But looking back, I can also see why it didn't work over the long period.
sure.
Yeah.
What's your earliest memory then?
What's my
Earliest memory?
earliest memory? Oof, that's a really good question. I think one of the earliest memories that I have that pops up is I was, let's see, I must have been 6, 7 years old. And I remember this was an emotional experience. It was an emotional experience. So I'm sure I could find other things, but my great grandmother passing away. And I used to remember going to visit her, once a week or so. We used to go visit her. And this is my mother's grandmother, my great grand. And I remember her passing away, and I must have been, 6, 7, maybe 8 years old. But I remember vividly coming into my parents' bedroom, waking up in the morning, and them, my mother telling me that my great grand had passed away. And I remember sitting on my mom's bed and just crying, being so sad. Yeah, I really recall that memory in South Africa.
Wow. It's amazing how you recall, and as you were saying there, your early memories and conditions of belief are formed at that early age, so it's always interesting to see what people recall.
Yeah, absolutely.
In terms of then, I mean, sort of through, I'm curious, your move to Israel and that, and you use the term, changing from boy to man, what sort of triggered that? Was that just the circumstance and what was going on, or was there a moment?
Yeah, so Israel is very much a warrior energy country. And when you arrive there, if you don't have connections, if you don't have money, if you don't have a easy path, you're going to need to step into your warrior energy fast. And so obviously moving there with my mom, my younger sister, and my baby brother, without a father, it was kind of obvious, being 14 years old, which is not a boy but not quite a man yet, that I had to step into that role to support mom and to support my siblings. So I can tell you, it definitely wasn't a conscious choice. Looking back, it's definitely not one that I wanted, but it just kind of unfolded like that, being the eldest. And it definitely shaped me and molded me into who I am today, naturally, of course. But very, very different energy coming from South Africa, very, passive, peaceful. You've got your nanny and you've got everyone supporting you. And when you get to Israel, it's like you're on your own, big boy. You want to make shit happen, you got to step up to the plate. And that's what happened. And so I landed there, and I landed on my face, and it took me a while until I got on my feet. But very quickly I realized the energy. And that's what I always say, one of my greatest blessings, having grown up in South Africa until the age of 14 and then living in Israel until about the age of 23, is that I got the best of both worlds. On the one hand, in South Africa, this polite gentleman, this learning language, dress well, put on a tie, you go to school in a tie, you dress proper, you speak proper, yes sir, 3 bags full sir. And then you go to Israel and it's a rough country. It's like, you better step up, otherwise you're going to be run over. And so I learned to play with both those energies. And I think that that's something that really formulates me well today in the business world, where I know how to put different hats on at different particular moments. I can put on the polite, well-spoken, well-presented gentleman, but I can also put on the aggressive and offensive hat, which sometimes needed, and, being direct and just saying it as it is to get the message across. So yeah, it was just, stepping into the man's shoes of the house was kind of the obvious thing.
So you moved forward then, you were into the military then at 19, I think you were saying?
Yeah, I went into the army in August 99. Spent 3 years in the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, and quite an experience. 3 years that shaped my life, I can tell you that. I mean, I walked into the army, a young whippersnapper, thought I knew everything better, arrogant, no discipline. I didn't have my father, who was not only my best friend, but was also my disciplinary. Like, if daddy got upset, you didn't want to get into trouble with daddy, I mean, I can tell you, I visited his belt more than once. And rightfully so. I mean, I wasn't an easygoing kid. I was mischievous, I'll tell you that. But when my father disappeared, for the age of 14, when I grew up without a dad, I naturally fell into the wrong circles of people, hanging around with the wrong groups. I started smoking, cigarettes and doing all, stupid stuff. And, just a kid who was lost, basically, a kid who didn't have guidance, a kid who didn't have, maybe a role model or someone that could guide me a little bit more. Because, like I said, I was a daddy's boy. I wasn't a mommy's boy. So for me, a relationship with my mom, although I had it, was a little bit more foreign. I always leaned more towards my father. And so going into the army, that was a wake-up call, I'll tell you that. 3 years of being battered. I remember in my first few months in basic training, I mean, man, they would punish me at night. Wow, that was really, really a great lesson. And that's where I learned some of my greatest lessons, being focused, working as a team, but also, discipline, So definitely something that I would recommend to anyone. Kids nowadays are really soft, and not to make them hard, but that definitely shaped me into what I am today. It played a major role into me going out to the world and achieving success. Yeah.
Well, what was the context going into the army? I mean, is there a national enlistment, or is it just through choice?
So it is compulsory. So yeah, so to go into, it's compulsory. Yes. So there was no would you like to, or how about you go and try. It's not a question of if, it's only a question of when. And I actually delayed my army service. Normally it's from 18 to 21. I delayed it from 19 to 22. One of the main reasons was I was really focused on helping my mom, pay the bills, put food on the table. And it was really important for me to be able to bring home some bread. Yeah.
And I'm impressed that, you talked about the rebel as the mini or the junior Arnon, and then actually you're saying that the military actually sort of rounded the edges and made you who you are. That's quite a flip in terms of, character and what made you, really. It's quite interesting. Just in terms then of, I'm just curious in terms of, you mentioned different jobs. What were sort of the early jobs you had then? You talked about mopping a floor and things like that.
One of my first jobs, so my first job I ever had, I think I was about 10 years old, and I was delivering newspapers in South Africa. So, most kids, they go on their bicycle, they've got two little pockets on either side, and they ride their bicycle and they throw the newspapers in the neighborhood. South Africa at the time was too dangerous for a kid, 10 years old, to go on a bicycle. A lot of conflict, a lot of, stealing, a lot of suffering amongst the people of South Africa. And theft was a very common factor. Still is, unfortunately, in the country. So I used to deliver newspapers as a job, but my father used to take me. And that's the first time where I started to learn about money. I was about, I say 10, but it might have been 9 years old or something like that. And I used to have a paper route. And I used to, we used to deliver papers. And my father would sit in the front, obviously driving the car, and he had like, 40, 50 newspapers next to him in the passenger seat. I would sit on the opposite side of my father, right? And I would have a bunch of newspapers with me as well. And he would throw through the car, from his side, and I would throw from my side. And that way we would cover all sides of the street. And it was pretty cool. So that was my first actual job and my first interaction with money. I remember I used to get these like tiny little orange yellow envelopes, and there was like 103 rands for a week of work. I get paid weekly, and I started to save my money. And I remember that my parents back then bought me this piggy bank. I had this big white piggy, and I used to put money in this piggy as well. And when they would give me money to go and buy food at the shops or at school, I would always save a little bit and put it in. So my first job that comes to mind was delivering newspapers. I also started a business. My first little business, I started when I was 11 years old. I had an uncle who owned a toy store, and I used to basically go to the toy store, and to cut a long story short, instead of buying one toy just for myself, I would buy a box of toys and I would sell the toys at school. And so I would buy for one and sell for two. And I did that for a few good months, and I made some really nice profits until the government, also known as the teachers union, closed me down. But that was my first entrepreneurial adventure. Yeah, that was my first unofficial business as an 11-year-old. You know, in those periods, in those few months, in that period of time, I became the richest kid in school. I was just selling so many toys, and that was a really cool period. But if I look at the other jobs that I've done, there were summers that I worked as a plumber, as a plumber's assistant, let me say that. I remember being maybe 14, 15, yeah, about 15 years old. Summer break was two, 3 months, and I went and I assisted a plumber, and I would get up every freaking morning at like 4 a.m. He'd pick me up at 5, and we'd be gone working till 2, 3 p.m. in the afternoon, and just doing all kinds of jobs. And that was another job that I did. And you know, I mentioned, you know, cleaning floors and you know, restaurant floors and stuff like that. I used to be a delivery boy, yeah, delivering sandwiches, delivering food to offices. Worked in a restaurant, you know, just as a, you know, pretty much everything you need kind of boy. Wherever you need me, I'm at. So I also worked in I worked in a company that made newspapers and magazines, and I was just like a general runner, right? Like the postman, the post boy I must have been 17 years old or something. So I had some interesting experiences. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of struck there by, you know, you mentioned, well, I think, well, first of all, I tried to work out there, 103 Rand works in about £4.74. If if I've got the conversion right, and minus a couple of years and all that. So I thought that was interesting. But you didn't just be a paper boy. You kind of almost, you saw how you could optimize it. You know, you can systemize it. You can go faster, quicker. You talk
Yes.
about even buying the toys. It's not just you buy one, you sell two. It's, you don't just buy the toy. You actually sort of resystemize, optimize, push it forward. That's what I'm picking up there. Is the entrepreneurial gene is on fire, and you're even at that young age, right?
Absolutely, definitely had some fire in the belly. Um, I knew from a very young age that being an employee was not my thing. I already knew that, like even today, even with my companies and my businesses and things that I do on a larger scale, with a few more zeros at the end, you can't put me in a box. You put me in an office, you put me in a box. You're going to come in 2 days, maximum 3. You're going to see me hanging from the chandelier. I'm the kind of guy who needs to jump on the airplane, needs to go to the meetings, needs to, you know, wine and dine in the restaurants, needs to meet investors, needs to sit with bankers, needs to analyze a deal and sit with potential sellers. And so that entrepreneurial spirit was there from a very young age. And I think it's credit to do with my father. My father was always hustling and doing something. I can say he wasn't a big success, but that's one of the things that I modeled and witnessed at a young age, just watching him do his entrepreneurial thing. Yeah.
Well, no, it's fair play. Terms then, so you come out of the military at the far side, spot out and on the street. Where did you go to?
Good question. Yeah, I left the military. Broke, flat on my ass, broke. Had nothing. And I actually started working. I had 2 jobs. I had 2 jobs which evolved into one job. I worked at a game store for an arcade gaming place, where were all these arcade games. I'm talking hundreds of games, ridiculous. And basically, my job was to walk around and to make sure that everyone was playing clean and there was no problems. But also, if someone put in money and the game didn't start, I had a master key, and basically I could give free games to everyone. And so that was pretty cool. And I did that when I, you know, kind of left the army. I also worked in a gas station, pumping gas, right? So I do that maybe 2-3 times a week or whatever it was. And closer at the end of that phase, I started to work as a bartender. When I left the army, I received some kind of, you get like a grant, an amount of money that you can use towards education. And there are different kinds of courses you can take. Now you can imagine this 22-year-old hip and happening kid, good lucky looking. I had hair on my head at that time, a little bit different than today. I wanted to go to bartending school. So I went to learn how to be a bartender, and I went to learn how to flare, throw bottles around. Everybody at that age was watching Tom Cruise in Cocktail. And that was a very inspiring movie. So all these boys want to be, they want to be bartenders. And that's the truth. And I went and I did a bartending school over whatever it was, 1 or 2 or 3 months. And at a bartending school that was considered one of the most respectful at the time. And I studied there, and then I got a job as a bartender. And I worked in a bar, this bar / nightclub place. And I started to save up money. And then from all the money that I'd saved up, at the time, I was about 23 years old. So I was helping a little bit at home, but I was also saving up money for myself. And at that time, I decided that staying in Israel was not an option. I felt it was too small for me. My spirit had a bigger game to play. And don't forget, my mother tongue is English. My power was always in English. And so I decided with my girlfriend at the time, my sweetheart at the time, we decided together we were going to relocate, and we flew to Canada. And we arranged jobs for us in Canada. And we arrived in Canada and we started working in sales. And that's where my journey in the world started. That's where I started to go international. And but I left Israel. I couldn't stay there. A beautiful place, beautiful people, but I just needed a different vibration, different energy. And so Canada was my first stop, and it was a very interesting experience for me. Yeah.
Why Canada?
Just easy to get into. We didn't need visas. Very accessible. Also, we had searched for jobs. And we had lined up work. So there was work waiting for us in Canada, which was really important. We pretty much flew in with, the clothes on our back and a couple of $100. I remember I left Israel with a return ticket from Canada. So a two-way ticket from Israel to Canada, Canada to Israel. And I had $800 in my pocket. That's all I had. My entire net worth, with bags in my clothes and on my back, a return ticket home, and $800. That's all I had. And so for me, success was the only option. There was no way back.
How did you feel about that?
How did I feel about that? I was excited. I just wanted to get out there. I had no fear. I was fearless. One of the things that I see and I realize today is that today I have a lot to lose. I've got income, I've got businesses, I've got a beautiful home, I've got a lot of great things happening in my life. Back then I had nothing. If you have nothing, what have you got to lose? Nothing. And so the only way for me, the only thing that I could see was things can only get better. No, it can't get worse. And that is something that was a really cool feeling, that I was fearless and I had no worries. I just completely was naive to the fact that I was on the verge of being broke and homeless, and it didn't scare me. I was just relentless with my pursuit for success. And I think that's one of the things that really helped me achieve, my financial freedom by the age of 28. So I didn't care. I didn't have time to care. I didn't have time to think. Everybody's concerned, or what will they say, or what will they think? I didn't have that time. I was working 8 days a week, 25 hours a day. You don't have time. You have to make an appointment to go to the toilet, right? To have a shower. And so that was definitely an exciting period in my life. And a lot of great experiences from that.
So into sales, what were you selling at the time, or was it?
Yeah, so different things. One of the things that we were selling at that period of time was like herbal pillows. So heating pillows for muscle aches, injury aches. We were selling different kinds of cosmetics. We were also selling remote control toys. Yeah. So those were the main things. My probably my speciality and where I was doing the best of my work were on these heating pads. You know, these heating pads you put in the microwave, you heat them up for 3-4 minutes, and there's also it's like herbal therapy, right? And it smells so good, and you know, you put it on yourself, and you know, it just heats up the area, and there's good scents in the air. Yeah, aromatherapy. So yeah, so that's what I was selling. Mhm.
So you took to sales like a duck to water per se.
Can you repeat that?
So you took to sales
Oh,
okay then.
absolutely, absolutely. Listen, I'd be selling my whole life. You know, I remember there were moments where, you know, people would knock on the door and say to me, "Where's your mum? She owes us rent." And I had to sell them a story why they would get their money in 72 hours. And damn, I had to be convincing because sometimes they didn't come alone. And so I always figured that I had, my friends today say that I have the gift of the gab. Some of them say I'm even a wordsmith. So I don't know if that much is so true, but I definitely know how to communicate and, you know, get my message across. Sometimes better than others. But yeah, sales was, for me. Sales is just an energy, right? And I guess that I had that energy. I had that fire in the belly, and yeah, could convey the benefits, but also pinpoint the pains, and just amplify that in front of a person and get them to open their wallet and realize that actually what I have to share and sell is actually a pretty cool product. Yeah.
So talk us through. I mean, there must be a fairly rapid journey coming up, really, in terms of where you got to then.
Yeah. So, like I said, you know, I invested in property when I was 28, um, and that is, you know, abnormal. Achieved financial freedom at a relatively young age, and that was due to the pain. I had so much pain,
Hmm.
seeing my mum struggle, seeing my mum suffer, seeing her bringing up 3 kids, being on her own, um, you know, hearing her sometimes at night cry and being sad, and being on her own was definitely something that was an energy that I picked up on, and so subconsciously making that decision that I will never ever live like this, and I will, you know, never go hungry, and I'll, you know, was subconscious, but it was an obvious one. When I achieved success, you know, when I sold my first company and things were definitely turning around for me, age of 28, I became reckless. You know, what happens when you make a lot of money? Yeah, you start to spend it, and then I came across, and so for years I was always reading the books. So in my late teens, I was already reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki, you know, a great teacher of mine, which is ironic because I was already reading his books at, you know, 17, 18, 19 years old. And, you know, 5, 6 years ago, I got to share the stage and teach alongside Robert and Kim. He's got an amazing wife, teach about entrepreneurship and business and success. And it was so ironic for me. I kind of closed circle because I never thought as a 17, 18-year-old kid, I would ever share the stage with someone like Robert Kiyosaki. And that was a beautiful moment for me. And it just shows the power of the mind. And when there's commitment and you want something and you're willing to put in the effort and the hard work, how magic can happen. But so when I achieved, you know, that level of success and I started teaching, I started to ask myself, okay, am I playing a big game? And I started to realize that I was actually still playing small. And you know, that's when I started to take more seminars and more courses. I had the money, and I had the time, so I started to invest in myself. And I think that's one of the most forgotten arts that people forget about, is the importance of investing in yourself. I own cryptocurrency, I own Bitcoin, I own property, I invest in different, I buy businesses. Without a doubt, the best investments that I've ever made has always been in myself. And so for the last, I want to say about 10 years or so, I started to take a lot of courses and a lot of seminars. And I took a seminar in April 2011. I'll never forget it. In Amsterdam, there were 2,500 people in that room, and I showed up, student, open, willing, and ready to learn. And I took a program called the Millionaire Mind Intensive, and it was led by T. Harv Eker, who wrote the book Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. And I saw this gentleman on stage, and I saw the impact and how he was changing people's lives literally in front of my eyes. And I was like, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to do. I want to spread light. And that journey has taken me through to until COVID and coronavirus, and where we are at today and during this recording. It took me to a path where I eventually became one of 6 lead trainers for the Millionaire Mind Intensive in the world, which I'm very honored, humbled, and blessed to have the challenge, but also the gift to be able to spread the message around the world. And, through studying and teaching, that's brought me to meet some incredible people, and that's brought me to meet my business partners of today. And I work with some incredibly interesting and good people who today, by joining forces and working together, we actually acquire and buy businesses. And right now we're actually looking to acquire 22 companies in the UK. These are small multi-million pound companies, anything between 2 to 5 million. Before COVID, we were doing a raise of just over 60 million pounds. And so the question that I always carry with myself, am I playing a big game? Is my game big enough? And, according to statistics and according to the numbers and looking at my background, based on society's numbers, I should be in prison, or I should be a drug addict, or I should be, still doing, mopping floors in restaurants. And I've defied the odds. And for me, psychologically, now I want to see how far I can push. How far can I bend the universe? How much can I use the power of my mind and the power of intention and the law of attraction and all the laws, the unwritten laws in the universe? How can I use these laws to bend the universe and make manifest a great life? And doing that without going to school, or at least the diplomas and the certificates. Yeah.
Again, thank you for sharing. I mean, wow, it's phenomenal, the journey that you've gone on, and the rapid growth, which is great. It's great to see that level of focus and drive there, and I'm just curious, what would you classify as your superpower then out of all that?
What is my superpower?
Yeah.
I think I am an exceptionally good relationship builder. I understand people. I'm very sensitive. My inner GPS is very connected. And so when I'm building a board, or when I'm putting a team together, when I know how people are feeling, what their psychology is, I understand, and at a deeper level, I can sense what their inner voice is saying. And I think that's definitely my superpowers. I understand the game of business and how to put the right people in place and how to build those relationships. Definitely one of my strengths. I think another strength of mine is I'm also I'm a really good communicator. I can get people enthusiastic very quickly. I don't know if you ever witnessed or experienced as a kid, when you were walking down the road, minding your own business, one of your friends came up to you and said, Peter, come, quick, let's go, follow me. And then all of a sudden you find yourself running after a kid and you don't even know why. It's just his enthusiasm and his excitement carried you. And I tend to be that kind of person. I tend to be able to lift people up, but also to get people to get excited and enthusiastic about an idea, a business, or concept. That's definitely a superpower. Yeah.
And a couple of words you've mentioned there, but I mean, would you describe yourself as intuitive in general?
Yeah, very much so. It's funny you say that, because a lot of my business partners, when they hear about the way I coach and the way I work with business owners and business leaders and the way I guide them to achieving their, I don't like the word goals, but achieve their dreams and what they aspire to achieve, I'm very intuitive in the path. And it starts from what to say, how to say it, but even what books to read, which seminars, which courses, what actions to take. So I would like to say that my inner GPS is relatively sharp. I'm very much connected to myself, and I feel energy. I'm hypersensitive. I mean, you can imagine that speaking on stages of 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 people, you have to be sensitive. I can feel everything that's happening in my audience. I see the person in the corner who's sneezing, the person at the back who's coughing. I can see the lady in the front who's a little bit confused and doesn't understand exactly what I'm explaining. So I'm very sensitive to energies, and definitely helped me. Yeah.
Is that your, I mean, you mentioned stage and even your facial expressions, your energy level pops up. I mean, is that your flow place? Is that your place of power?
Absolutely. I'll tell you what, I feel so alive on stage. Just to being blessed and being given the opportunity to spread light and share some tools, strategies, tips, shortcuts with people so that they can go out and live a bigger, better, bolder life is very pleasurable. When I teach a 3-day event, people always say to me, Arnon, you teach Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Which day is your favorite day to teach? I always say Monday. They're what? Monday? It's a 3-day event. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. What are you talking about? I say to them, listen, Monday is the day that all the messages come in. Monday is the day when everybody is sending me a message on social and saying, thank you so much. You changed my life. Thank you for, teaching me X, Y, or Z, or helping me with A, B, or C. I get the messages on Monday where people say, Arnon, before the event, I was going to commit suicide. And I said to myself, this is the last chance I'm giving myself. Thank you. I am going to go out there and I'm going to make shit happen. For me, there's no message in the world. There's no form of fulfillment greater than receiving those messages. So I shine on stage knowing that I can, I receive books from people that have sent me books that they've written, and I open the book and I open it up and there's a little message to me, and they say, I wrote this book because you said something on stage that triggered me, and I was like, I've got to do this. And so never underestimate what you have to say. Never underplay what you have to share with the world, because you never know what you say, how you say it, or when it's delivered. Someone will pick it up, and if you're spreading light, it can change someone's universe. And so for me, that just lights me up. I know for a fact when I'm teaching on stage, and let's just say there's 1,000 people in the room, I know 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, maybe even 80% will do nothing with what I teach. But it's the 10, 20, 30% of people that actually latch onto an idea and they go and make it happen, and it completely turns their life around 180 degrees. For me, that's where my fulfillment lives. That's where my mission is met. And I'll continue doing it as soon as we get out of this whole COVID experience. I shine on stage. I just love the stage. It's just a place where I can serve to the greatest of my abilities. Yeah.
Do you believe everyone's born with fire in the belly?
I do. I think everyone has fire in their belly. Everyone has fire in their belly towards their passion, towards their gifts and their talents. And I think there's different forms of fire. The guy or the gal who's painting the beautiful picture is a different fire of the guy who's, running to score a touchdown or score the winning goal in the World Cup final, but it's still fire in the belly. And so I believe that every person is born with fire in their belly. Yeah.
It's always interesting, and you touched on it briefly earlier, is, why, given all the same circumstances and conditions, why some people would get up and basically do what you've done in terms of excel and really sort of take off, whereas other people might just see the same set of circumstance and God knows where they would end up, and I'm always curious. Is there is there a fork in the road? What
Yeah,
happens,
it's a really interesting question or idea you share. I believe that at any given time, we're living in two energies, only one of two energies. And the first energy, we're either living in an energy of creation, where we are creating, we are manifesting, we're using our brilliance to plant, nurture, feed, grow, and ultimately sow, right? To harvest, if you will, from our creation. And so we're either living in a creation energy or we're in a destructive energy. And it's one or the other. And so a lot of people that get stuck in a destructive energy, a lot of them sometimes are, in a downward energy, in the sense of maybe they're feeling depressed, maybe they're sad, maybe they're alone, all these weak energies, these low energetic vibrations. A lot of them might be feeling like a victim, like they've been treated harshly or unfairly, or something has happened to them, and as a result they are the victims of the situation. And so, and then on the flip side, you've got the creators. When my father left as a young kid, I could have gone down a different route. I could have gone down the route of, oh, my dad left, I lost my best friend, now I'm stuck with my mom. Yeah, I love her, but I never really connected with her as much as I did with my father. Poor me, poor me, poor me, poor me. Okay, that's definitely a path that I could have gone down. But the other path I actually chose was, great, daddy's not here, freedom, and let's take care of shit, let's get a job. I'm the man, I can work, I can earn money, no one to tell me when to come home and what to do and all that stuff. And so I fell automatically into the creative energy. There were moments when my other siblings fell into the victim energy. And I can see how that has manifested today, and how they think and how they do things. Again, without judgment, not good, bad, or right or wrong. It's just a different way of seeing the world. I very much went into the creation and the creator's energy, and didn't allow that situation and other situations to not only hold me back, but worse, anchor me down. Yeah.
Do you believe you are where you're supposed to be?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm a big believer of the universe. She is perfect. Everything is perfect. Um, you know, Everything happens for a reason, all those sayings and all those statements. But I really believe that's true. Inherently, that's true. We are where we are because these are the seeds we've planted. And that's why, when people come to me and say, oh, my business is having a problem, this month is a bad month, I'm like, bullshit. You're having a bad month because 6 months ago you were asleep, because 12 months ago you were asleep, because 18 months ago you were asleep. Because there's always, in the universe, there's always a knock-on effect. There's always a lag, what I call lag time. You plant a seed today, it doesn't grow tomorrow. And so when people say to me, oh, my business is struggling, I was like, well, because you were asleep 3, 6, 9, 12 months ago. What you're experiencing now is just the bump in the road that you should have taken care of months ago. And so I believe the universe is perfect. I believe everything happens for a reason. Every person we meet comes into our life to play a role. Some roles are bigger and more important than others. Some roles are shorter lived and less important than others. But people come in to play a role. Once their role is fulfilled, they move on, and we move on.
And in terms of, for you, I mean, do you find that you're aligned to your true self? Are you at that stage?
This is always a battle. I think this is always an ongoing conversation with myself, because people always try to pull you into their world. And, being a public figure, being on stages, being someone who is considered an expert, in the space of entrepreneurship, business growth, business success, business development. A lot of people pull or want to pull me towards their ideas, sending me business plans on invest in this project and invest in that project. And like any entrepreneur, I used to suffer. Now I'm much more balanced, but I used to experience shiny object syndrome, where, everything is shiny, everything's exciting. Ooh, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this. But being more mature, more centered, and more in my power today, I know two things. Number one, you only get rewarded for the races you finish. You only get rewarded for the races you complete. You don't get a gold medal for running 80% of the race. Hell, you don't even get a golden medal for running 99% of the race. And so that's why I said earlier, I say no a lot more than I say yes. And that's one thing I had to learn, which was sometimes difficult. And successful people do that. Successful people say no more than they say yes. And so categorically, one of the things that in most cases, I get lots of opportunities that come onto my doorstep, but I say no a lot. That's the first thing. And also, the thing that's really helped me over the years is to actually acknowledge people and say to them, thank you for helping me stay focused. Because people get offensive. Oh, you're not open, and you talk about being open, and you should be open. And I'm like, okay, so what's the idea? And it's like, they've got this idea, whatever it is, and I can make 100 euros a day. And I'm like, dude, I'm building a 100 million euro company, 100 million pound company. Like, no, I'm not open to that idea. No. So thank you for keeping me focused, yeah, shiny object syndrome is a big one. It's a big one. And a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with that. But for me today, it's very clear about my path. I try to live in my truth as much as possible. I do wobble a little bit here and there, but that's why surrounding yourself with other champions is very important. One of the key things when people ask me, what is a key for success? Environment. Surround yourself with other champions. Surround yourself with people that are going to hold you accountable. Surround yourself with people that are going to lift you up, even when you're a little bit down, especially when you're down, So yeah, I work every day to stay in my power, because the reality is every morning there's a guy who wakes up every morning and tries to take me out of the game. Every morning. Arnon, you want to sleep for 5 more minutes. Come on, it's nice and cozy in bed. Let's hit the snooze button. Arnon, you don't really want to go to the gym. Come on, let's watch Netflix. Let's relax. So that battle is constant. It's constant. And, it's a question of, there's two wolves, the good wolf, the bad wolf. Which wolf will win? Whichever one you feed. And so you just got to be careful and conscious about which wolf you want to feed. And, yeah.
I'm curious as well. You talk about the inner chatter, the inner critic, the voice. Do you do a lot of work in terms of your own mindset, in terms of focus and things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's an ongoing process. I'm just a yellow belt, and for anyone to think that they're not is naive. It's an ongoing process. And again, this is where environment and speaking to people and having great coaches and support systems around is very beneficial. I always, I get asked the question, if I could give my younger self some advice, one piece of advice, what would it be? I always say, get a great freaking coach, someone who has got the results you want, that has, gone through the blood, sweat, and tears, has the T-shirt, and can guide and could guide my younger self. And I think that coaching and self-educating and, surrounding yourself with the right people is so underestimated that it's actually sad. So definitely for me, if I look at where I am today, one of the greatest things that I've given myself is surround myself with other champions. if I were to look 10, 15 years ago at the emails that I would receive and who were the senders, I'm like, oh, these are all broke people, good people, but they're broke, they're struggling, they haven't figured it out. They don't understand the concept of adding value and serving and coming from the energy of contribution and giving and creation. And now when I look at the emails that I receive, I mean, like, I got to pinch myself. Very blessed, I must say.
Mm. Do you love yourself? Do you like yourself?
Yeah, of course, very important. And actually, it's funny you say that, because in my showers and in my bathroom, I have declarations that I've printed out and laminated, and I've got declarations that are there to remind myself of, you know, I love myself, and, you know, to create subconsciously messages around me empowering myself, you know, because there's so much self-talk going around, right? You know, and I always say, you got to be careful what you say to yourself, because you are listening. Yeah. And what is the common language that we used to? Oh, you know, I could have done that better. I could have done it faster. I could have done it, you know, in half the time. I could have, you know, improved here. It's like, oh, that's just not supportive. That's not going to serve you in any shape or form. And so I'm very conscious and aware of creating that that positive self-talk around me that empowers me. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So take us through in terms of your, you know, your teaching. What what is your style, and what can you really deliver for people?
So definitely expressive. If you ever see me teach, and if you ever see me speak, then you will know. I mean, you've seen me on stage. I'm offensive. I'm unapologetic, and I'm there to wake people up, not to make friends, but there to wake people up. And I always say, I always say, the truth will set you free, but first it's gonna piss you off. And so I tend to piss people off, I'll be honest with you. But they also understand that my heart is in the right place, that I come from kindness, I come from serving, I come from light energy. And so I'm unapologetic. I'm an energy bomb, I'll be honest with you. You see me on stage, I'm in full flight. So I always say to people, bring a parachute and put your seatbelt on, because I'm not taking hostages. It's important for me to get my message across. And so the way I teach and the way I train is I tell stories. I love stories, and I share metaphors, but all high energy, And like I said, the way I teach is through a concept called accelerated learning, which is, engaging the nervous system, the left brain hemisphere, the right brain hemisphere, which makes it fun, makes it interactive. I mean, I can't imagine sitting in a room for 1, 2, or 3 days with PowerPoint on the screen, with the lights dimmed, with a nice blue light shimmering in the background. The only thing you get from that is a good night's sleep, right, during the day. So yeah, no, very interactive. And my trainings and my events, I play lots of games, because what we see from a psychological standpoint, people learn more through games than they learn from writing in a book. So I've got some really powerful games that I've developed over the years that are just so eye-opening, life-changing, actually. And even till today, sometimes I get messages from students from years ago who played my negotiation game, or played my money game, or played certain games, my sales game. And they're like, oh my God, I just was in a situation, and I remember doing the training with you 4 or 5 years ago, and it triggered me, and I used this skill, and I used this that you taught me, and oh my God, it was amazing. So I like to have fun. I'm a very fun energy. Yes, I'm a businessman. I'm a serious businessman, but I'm also a fun businessman. And I think that's where people get it mixed up. People think that business needs to be tough and hard and bullshit. Business is fun and simple. Not easy, but fun and simple. And that's my philosophy that I take with the way I do business, but also the way I train. I want training and teaching to be fun. Yeah.
That's, I mean, I love that in terms of the energy and the energy bomb. And you talked at the start in terms of arrive alive and leave awake. That's, you can really feel that energy coming off you, which again appeals back to your imagination, your creativity, etc. And who who can you help the most? I mean, what do you see, and how can you make it happen for people?
So up until COVID, I was very much focused on putting all my energy behind helping entrepreneurs, business owners, business leaders. If you have a business and you have a small team or medium-sized team or a big team, you need to come speak to me because I'm the man. I've taken companies from 2 million to 12 million. My biggest clients are doing up to 400 million, but I've also got small businesses that are doing, from a few £100,000, few €100,000, and now they're pushing through to the millions. So it was always the focus was entrepreneurship, business people, business leaders. One of the things that I have been doing over the years, but not putting a big enough emphasis and energy behind it, I had been helping trainers, speakers, and coaches, consultants to get their message out to the world and build a successful business. So a lot of coaches, they've got a great gift and they've got a great talent, but they know nothing about business. For me, it was the other way around. I was a great businessman before I became a trainer and a coach and a speaker. And so for me, the reason why I'm incredibly successful in training, coaching, and speaking is because I was first a businessman before I was a trainer, speaker, coach. And so one of the things that I'm passionate about doing, and I'm doing this right now, is I built a program. It's called Coach and Get Wealthy. It's a webinar. And basically, I invite people that are coaches, that are speakers, that are trainers, that are consultants, that are people that have a gift and a talent, but they want to build a business around it. In a format of being a coach or teacher or an inspirator, to show them how I went from someone who's didn't finish school, didn't go to university, and training and coaching people from all over the world, spreading my light, spreading my gifts, spreading my talents, having a lot of fun, adding tremendous value and getting paid tremendously well. I came across the last, 6, 7, 8 months, people putting ads on Facebook and saying, if you're a coach, I'll show you how to do 6 figures in a month. I'm like, 6 figures in a year. I'll show you how to build a coaching business and make 6 figures in a year. I'm like, dude, I do 6 figures a month. And so I felt like an obligation to help people that are coaches and trainers and healers to get their message out. Because one of the things that pains me, and this happens all the time, I see it endlessly and it drives me bonkers, is you've got this person that's got a gift and a talent. They're a coach or a healer and they have a message or a mission to share with the world. And people should be, engaging with this person because this person can help them in a certain way, in a certain shape, in a certain form. But because this person doesn't know anything about business, now what do? They try to set up a coaching practice or healing practice, but because they have to pay the bills, they've got to put food on the table, they have to work a side job that they hate, but they have to pay the bills because they don't know how to build their coaching business. And eventually what happens is the real gift and the real talent disappears because they've got to pay their mortgage, they've got to put their kids through school and everything. And so what I'm doing right now is I'm taking these people, the healers, the coaches, the trainers, the speakers, and I'm showing them step by step how to build a great coaching business so that they can spread their light, but forget about the shitty work that is just killing their spirit. And so that's where my focus has been, just helping other coaches spread light. And I think that's also where what the world needs right now. I mean, so many people are struggling mentally, emotionally. I mean, suicides are up. People are depressed. There's a massive amount of hurt and sadness and unrest amongst people throughout the world, regardless of your color, your creed, your religion, your background, whether you went to university, whether you didn't go to university. It's all, we're a human nation and there's a lot of pain going on right now. So I believe now more than ever, we need healers, we need coaches, we need people that are going to bring light to the world. And so my focus is right now going to train these people to add value, to share their gifts and talents, have fun, and spread light, add value to the people that need it, and for them to get paid well. Because if they're not paid well, then they're going to have to go back to the shitty job. and that's not serving anyone. So obviously you can see I'm a little bit passionate about this. You can see my energy's up, but that's my focus right now. Yeah. So of course I'm still working with business owners and, you know, traditional businesses from, you know, construction companies, from, you know, a wide range of companies, right? But what I've started to shift, which I've been doing over the years, but putting much more of an emphasis on, is working with the healers and the trainers and the coaches and the speakers and the consultants. Yeah.
And when you're doing that, I mean, what's your overall mantra? What's your ethos going into this?
Well, just to add tremendous value, add ridiculous value, tremendous value, so that when people leave, they're like, oh my God, that was insane. I mean, it just changed my life. One sentence, one conversation, one Skype call, one online meeting, one training. It's like, because you see, the beautiful thing about the mind is that once the mind is exposed to an idea, it can never go back. That's the great philosopher Benjamin Disraeli. He said that once the mind is exposed to an idea, it can never go back. And all I want to do is show people the ideas that I've used successfully, not once, not twice, not 10 times, but hundreds of times, to do incredibly well financially. Because once they understand these tools and these secrets, and I literally walk them through these processes hand in hand, they will never go back. Their life will never be the same again. And yeah, it's very powerful. Just exposed to them ideas.
It is powerful. Thank you for sharing that. In terms of the future and potential, I mean, what's your potential?
I am of the belief that human beings are born with unlimited potential. That's where I come from, and that's when and the moment we're born with unlimited, you know, we could do anything. That's when the conditioning starts. Sit down, be quiet, don't make a noise. You can't do this. You can't have that. You can't experience that. Oh, you can't. And you know, you know, there's the four-letter word that I hate hearing people say. No, it's not the big F. It's not the big F word, but the four-letter word that is incredibly disempowering is CANT. Can't. For my American friends, can't. Yeah. It's a really disempowering word. And so what is my potential? Unlimited. You know, whatever I put my mind to and what I want to achieve, I'm going to achieve. And I always say there's no unrealistic goals. There's only unrealistic timelines. No unrealistic goals. Just unrealistic timelines.
I love that. You know, it just resonates in terms of, you know, and the people who are wanting to push forward. You know, it's so strong. What's a guilty pleasure for you?
Guilty pleasure? Guilty pleasure. Oh, that's a good one. I think a guilty pleasure for me is indulging in a football match, watching my football team kick the ass of the opponent. I'm a massive Liverpool supporter. So, you know, if anybody knows our history, we haven't won the Premier League for 30 years, and we just did. And it was a little bit of a bittersweet win, because obviously we couldn't celebrate and everything. But I love my football. I love my football. So I play football myself. I also play the sport. Actually, I've got a match tonight. So
Awesome.
yeah, we've got a big game tonight, so that's going to be really cool. But I also, I'm a massive Liverpool supporter. And so that is a little bit of my guilty pleasure. When they're on, I'm switched off. You can't talk to me. Of course, you know, depending on the circumstance, if I'm traveling or something, then that might hamper my plans. But in general, there's definitely a guilty pleasure, just kicking back and watching my game. Yeah.
And leisure and pleasure for you, is that one and the same?
Completely. For me, the one cannot live without the other.
Mm.
Whatever I'm doing, I always say to people, before I examine any business opportunity, get involved in any adventure, entrepreneurial or other, three important things need to be taken into consideration. Number one, it's got to, in some way, in some shape or form, it's got to touch on my mission. Okay. And my mission is to assist and help as many people build and create financial freedom and live a healthy, happy, wealthy life. That's my mission. Okay. I'll say that again. To assist and help as many people build and create financial freedom and live a healthy, happy, wealthy life. So whatever I get involved in, whatever business it is, it's got to, in some way, shape or form, it's got to fulfill my mission. Okay. Another thing that's really important for me, it's got to be profitable. And when I say profitable, not only financial profitable, it's got to fill up certain bank accounts. Now, fulfillment is a bank account. Contribution is a bank account. Giving back is a bank account. So it's got to tap into some of my bank accounts, right? And then the third thing, critical. So one, it's got to be part of my mission in some way, some shape or form. It's got to be profitable for me in some way, not only financially, but also maybe fulfillment or giving back or serving, or that's really important. And the third one, we got to have fun. We got to have fun. The moment there is no fun, I lose interest. For years, being broke, coming from a broken family and not having money and not having the rich mommy or daddy to give me a check. For years, I was focused on filling up my bank account. Bank account, money. I was focused on that for years. And as I was focused filling up on my bank account, I neglected all my other accounts. But today, now I have the money. Now I want to fill up my experience account. I want to fill up my fun account. These are very important accounts for me. So if it's not fun and if there's no experience and it's not jolly, then I'm not interested because I don't need it. Yeah.
Talking about fun, you mentioned bucket list earlier. Give us a taster and put it out there in the universe as to what's on there.
Oh, it's out there in the universe. I'll tell you that. Yeah, just the top of my head, a couple of things. A couple of things. So first of all, I want to learn how to master skydiving. I want to master playing the piano. Okay, I've got a piano here. I master playing the piano. I want to climb the Wall of China, the Great Wall of China. I want to visit the pyramids on camels. I want to do coast to coast in America on Jeeps. Take out 6-8 weeks and just travel New York all the way to LA and just enjoy a coast to coast trip. Machu Picchu. I want to witness. I want to go to certain events, global events, see certain singers, speakers. But also bucket list is, you said you're speaking on TED. There are those kind of achievements as well. I want to touch as many lives as possible. That's on my bucket list. I want to speak on the biggest stages. I want to be able to give back tremendously. I would love for a street to be named after my name, and that's only going to come by bringing more value to the marketplace, by changing people's lives, by contributing and giving back. So there's a lot of good that I want to do. And the good news is that based on how I feel and my age, I think I've got a few good years ahead of me to achieve that. And so for me, it's just the beginning. It's just the beginning. It's just, I'm at the starting line. I'm not even close to the finish line. I'm at the starting line. Yeah.
So in many, 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 many years' time, when you're given that warrior cry and you drop dead, what are you putting on your gravestone?
Lived fully.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Lived fully.
In terms then of your fire in the belly in one or two words, how would you describe that?
If I were to describe fire in the belly in one or two words.
Your fire in the belly.
My fire in the belly. Okay. I would say well, two things that come up. One is one word, which is hunger, and never giving up. Never giving up. Never saying die. Never throwing in the towel.
Nice.
Yeah.
So tell us, where can people find you, hunt you down, track you down, follow you, stalk you, get more of you, basically?
I'm very easy to find. I'm all over the place, right? I'm, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. My handles are all the same. Arnon Barnes. So I'm, LinkedIn's a great place. Facebook, obviously, Instagram, but Arnon Barnes. And you can visit my website as well, which is arnonbarnes.com. And they can see which events are up and coming and what online programs. I've put some really great and crazy online programs together just to serve and help more people. But yeah, Arnon Barnes, that's just the handle and the website, arnonbarnes.com. Yeah.
Awesome. It's great having a slightly unique name, so it makes life a lot easier. Any final message you'd like to leave us with?
Yeah, I would like to leave a message to all the listeners, to everyone who's tuned in and had patience and taken their time to listen to my story, and hopefully they've picked up at least one or two golden nuggets or pearls of wisdom on the way. But one of the things that I picked up many years ago that changed my life was I got asked a question, and the question was, what's the best way to help the poor? What is the best way to help the poor? And I remember contemplating the answer, and one of my teachers, without hesitating, I looked at him and he looked at me and he said, the best way to help the poor is not to become one of them. So for everyone listening out there, all I'm going to say is become as rich, as powerful, as influential, as successful as you can, so that you can help as many people as possible to the top of the mountaintop as well. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me, Peter. It's been a privilege and a pleasure, and I'm really looking forward to meeting you in our journey in the future again, and seeing how our paths can cross. And obviously, to everyone listening, I just want to thank you for listening as well. So I appreciate it. I'm humbled and I'm honored. And yeah, I'm looking forward for them to stay in touch. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and yeah, I want to see their journeys as well, their journeys of success. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing, and gratitude for putting it out there and sharing your energy. So thank you.